I was closing my diary when Gordon snatched my notebook right out of my hands. My heart stopped. The air left my lungs and that cruel smirk stretched across his lips like he'd just won some twisted prize. "What's this, Alex?" he said, his voice dripping with barely concealed amusement. I knew instantly that something terrible was about to happen, but I stood frozen, helpless to stop it. His friends formed a tight circle around him, vultures drawn to fresh meat, and Gordon opened the first letter, the letter I'd written for him, where I'd poured out every feeling I'd ever been too scared to say out loud. "Dear Gordon," he read in a mocking, theatrical voice, and the laughter started immediately. "You live in my dreams and your smile keeps me alive." My soul burned. I stood there in the middle of the cafeteria like a statue, watching as everyone turned my deepest emotions into entertainment. Gordon continued reading with exaggerated drama, playing it up for his audience. "I want to get lost in your eyes. Alex, are you serious right now?" His friends were practically doubled over. One of them shouted, "Dude, you've got a secret admirer." And then Gordon said the words that shattered me completely. "Alex actually thinks he's special. How adorable." Adorable. That word stabbed into my chest like a blade twisting slowly. I wasn't special. I was just a joke to him. I ran. I couldn't stay there another second with tears threatening to spill from my eyes. I made it to the library and collapsed into a quiet corner, trying desperately to control my breathing. Shame, anger, pain, they all crashed over me at once. I pulled out my phone and saw that he'd already shared photos of my letters in the group chat. Notifications flooded in. Laughing emojis, cruel comments, screenshots spreading like wildfire. I turned my phone off, but the damage was already done. Then the door opened. I thought maybe it was the librarian, but instead a deep voice cut through the silence. "Gordon never deserved you." I looked up. A man stood there in a perfectly tailored suit, sharp jawline, a few silver streaks running through his dark hair. His presence carried weight, authority. This wasn't some college student. This was someone who operated on an entirely different level. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice shaking. He smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was dangerous. "Ryker. Gordon's cousin." He paused, letting that sink in. "And possibly your next biggest mistake. Or maybe your salvation." There was something in his eyes I couldn't quite read. Power, intensity, and something else lurking beneath the surface that made my pulse quicken for reasons I didn't understand. The silence stretched between us as I tried to process what was happening. Gordon's cousin, standing here in the library, talking to me like he knew exactly what had just happened. Nothing made sense. I wiped at my eyes quickly, trying to hide any remaining trace of tears, but I knew he'd already seen them. He'd seen me at my absolute lowest. "Why are you here?" I finally managed to ask, my voice steadier than I expected. Ryker moved closer, his expensive shoes barely making a sound on the library floor. He pulled out a chair and sat down across from me, completely at ease like he owned the place. "Maybe he did. I saw what happened in the cafeteria," he said quietly, his tone shifting to something almost gentle. "I was visiting Gordon. Unfortunately, wanted to discuss some family business. Instead, I got to witness him humiliating someone who clearly cared about him." His jaw tightened. "I don't tolerate that kind of cruelty, especially not from family." I stared at him, searching for signs that this was some elaborate prank, another layer to Gordon's torture. But Ryker's expression remained serious, almost angry on my behalf. "You don't even know me," I said defensively. "Why do you care?" "Because I know what it's like to be vulnerable and have someone weaponize it against you." Ryker leaned back, studying me with those intense eyes. "And because those letters showed something rare, genuine emotion. People don't write like that anymore. Everything's calculated, fake, designed for social media likes. But you were real." My cheeks burned with embarrassment and something else I couldn't name. Was this actually happening? Gordon's sophisticated, powerful cousin was sitting here complimenting the very thing that had just destroyed me. "They're gone now," I said bitterly. "He made sure everyone saw them. Everyone knows." "Good," Ryker said, and my head snapped up in surprise. "Let them know. Let them see that you're capable of depth and feeling, while they're busy chasing shallow validation. You're not the one who should be ashamed, Alex. Gordon is." The way he said my name sent a strange shiver down my spine. How did he even know it? He must have seen the question in my eyes, because he added, I heard him say it. When he was mocking you. The disgust in his voice was evident. I wanted to intervene right then, but I thought maybe you'd prefer not to have more attention drawn to the situation. I waited. Thank you, I whispered, not sure what else to say. This entire encounter felt surreal. Ryker stood up, smoothing his suit jacket, and I noticed how everything about him screamed success and confidence. Everything I felt I lacked in that moment. I have to go, he said. But Alex, what happened today doesn't define you. How you respond to it will. He started walking toward the door and panic suddenly flooded through me. I didn't want him to leave. For some inexplicable reason, his presence made me feel less broken, less alone. Wait, I called out, standing up too quickly and almost knocking over my chair. He turned back, one eyebrow raised in question. Will I see you again? I asked, immediately regretting how desperate that sounded. But Ryker's expression softened and he reached into his jacket pocket, pulling out a business card. He walked back and placed it in my hand, his fingers brushing against mine for just a second. Call me if you need anything, he said, or if you just want to talk to someone who won't judge you. I looked down at the card. Ryker Montgomery, CEO, Montgomery Enterprises. My hands started trembling again, but this time from something other than shame. This man wasn't just successful, he was powerful, influential, probably dealing with million-dollar decisions while I was drowning in college drama. Why would someone like you want to help someone like me? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Ryker smiled, and this time it reached his eyes. Because someone like you deserves better than what Gordon gave you. And I have a feeling you're going to surprise a lot of people, Alex. Starting with yourself. With that, he left, and I was alone again in the quiet library. But somehow the silence felt different now, less suffocating. I looked down at the business card in my hand, running my thumb over the embossed letters of his name. My phone buzzed with another cruel notification from the group chat. But for the first time since Gordon had grabbed my notebook, I didn't feel completely destroyed. Something had shifted. Someone had seen me, really seen me, and hadn't turned away in disgust or laughter. I didn't know what it meant yet, or where it would lead. But as I gathered my things and prepared to face whatever came next, I felt a small spark of something I hadn't felt in hours. Hope. I couldn't stop thinking about Ryker. That night, I lay in bed staring at his business card under my desk lamp, turning it over and over in my fingers like it might disappear if I looked away. The encounter felt like a dream, something my desperate mind might have conjured up to cope with the worst day of my life. But the card was real, solid and expensive between my fingertips. Montgomery Enterprises. I'd looked it up online, tech investments, real estate, philanthropic ventures. Ryker wasn't just rich. He was Forbes list, influenced the world kind of successful. And he'd given me his personal number. I drafted and deleted about 15 text messages before finally giving up and tossing my phone onto the nightstand. What would I even say? Thanks for not laughing at me? Sorry you had to witness your cousin being a complete monster? Everything sounded pathetic in my head. I eventually fell asleep with the card still clutched in my hand. My dreams a confused mixture of Gordon's cruelty and Ryker's unexpected kindness. The next morning, I seriously considered not going to class. My alarm went off at 7 and I hit snooze 4 times before finally dragging myself out of bed. Facing everyone after yesterday felt impossible. But hiding forever wasn't an option either. I took a longer shower than usual, letting the hot water wash away some of my anxiety, and dressed in my most comfortable clothes. The soft hoodie and jeans, armor against the stares I knew were coming. Campus was exactly as awful as I'd expected. Whispers followed me everywhere. People I'd never even spoken to seemed to know exactly who I was now. Some looked at me with pity, which somehow felt worse than the mockery. Others smirked and whispered to their friends. I kept my head down, earbuds in even though no music was playing, just trying to make it through. Gordon was in my second class, and when I walked in, my stomach twisted into knots. He was surrounded by his usual group, laughing about something. Probably me. I chose a seat in the back corner, as far from him as possible. He glanced my way once, and I braced myself for another cruel comment. But he just looked away quickly, almost like he was uncomfortable. That surprised me more than anything. I survived the morning classes through sheer willpower and made it to lunch without any direct confrontations. The cafeteria was absolutely out of the question, so I found myself back in the library, eating a granola bar in the same corner where Ryker had found me yesterday. The irony wasn't lost on me. My phone buzzed. For a heart-stopping moment I thought it might be Ryker, but it was just a notification from the college portal about an assignment deadline. I pulled out the business card again, staring at the number printed in elegant font. Before I could overthink it, I opened a new message and typed, "This is Alex. From yesterday. I don't know if you remember." I deleted it immediately. Of course he remembered. I tried again. "Hi. This is Alex. I wanted to thank you for..." Delete. Too formal. Third attempt. "Hey. It's Alex. Just wanted to say yesterday meant a lot." I hit send before I could chicken out. The 3 dots indicating he was typing appeared almost immediately, and my heart started racing. "I was hoping you'd reach out. How are you holding up?" I stared at the message, surprised by how genuine it felt. Not some polished corporate response, just a simple question from someone who actually seemed to care about the answer. I typed back honestly, "Still processing. Today has been pretty rough." His response came quickly. "I imagine so. Listen, I know this might seem forward, but I'm in town for a few more days. Would you want to grab coffee? No pressure. Just thought you might want to talk to someone outside of the college bubble." I read the message 3 times, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. This was insane, right? Meeting up with Gordon's older, successful, intimidating cousin for coffee? What would we even talk about? But then again, what did I have to lose? My dignity was already in shreds, and Ryker had been nothing but kind to me. "Okay," I typed. "When? Tonight? 7 o'clock. There's a place called Meridian on 5th Street. I knew Meridian. It was one of those upscale coffee shops with exposed brick and overpriced lattes, where I definitely didn't belong. But I agreed anyway. "See you there." The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of anxiety and anticipation. I went through my closet 3 times trying to figure out what to wear to coffee with a billionaire. Everything I owned suddenly looked shabby and worn. I finally settled on a clean button-down shirt and my least faded jeans, hoping I looked presentable enough not to embarrass myself. I arrived at Meridian 10 minutes early, my nerves making me pace the block twice before actually going inside. The place was beautiful. Warm lighting, art on the walls, the rich smell of coffee filling the air. I felt completely out of my element. I was about to text Ryker that I'd made a mistake when I spotted him at a corner table. He'd somehow beaten me there despite my early arrival, and he was dressed more casually than yesterday. Dark jeans and a fitted black sweater that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. He saw me and waved me over, standing up as I approached. "Alex, glad you came. I wasn't sure you would." "Almost didn't," I admitted, sliding into the seat across from him. He smiled at my honesty. "I appreciate you being straight with me. Can I get you something? Their caramel macchiato is excellent." I usually just ordered regular coffee, but something about the way he suggested it made me say yes. He signaled a waiter. Apparently they had table service here. Another sign I was way out of my league, and ordered for both of us. "So," Ryker said, folding his hands on the table and giving me his full attention, "tell me about yourself. And I don't mean the version everyone thinks they know from yesterday. I mean the real you." Nobody had ever asked me that question quite like that before. Not with such genuine interest. I stumbled over my words at first, but Ryker was patient, asking follow-up questions that showed he was actually listening. I told him about my art history major, my love for old architecture, the novels I'd been writing in secret that nobody knew about. He told me about building his first company from nothing, about the pressure of family expectations, about losing himself for a while in the pursuit of success before finding his way back. We talked for 2 hours. The coffee shop began to empty around us, but neither of us moved. "I need to ask you something," I said finally, my courage bolstered by the comfortable conversation. "Why are you really doing this? Being nice to me, I mean. You don't owe me anything." Ryker was quiet for a moment, considering his words carefully. Because I see something in you that reminds me of myself before the world tried to beat it out of me. That vulnerability, that capacity to feel deeply, it's not weakness, Alex. It's strength. And I'd hate to see Gordon's cruelty make you lose it. His words settled over me like a warm blanket. Thank you, I said softly, for seeing me as more than just the guy who got humiliated. You're so much more than that, Ryker said firmly. And I hope you'll let me prove it to you. The intensity in his eyes made my breath catch. This felt like more than just kindness from a stranger. This felt like the beginning of something I couldn't quite name yet. Something that both terrified and exhilarated me. As we left Meridian together, stepping out into the cool evening air, my phone buzzed with a message from Gordon. Stay away from my cousin. I showed it to Ryker, expecting him to be concerned. Instead, he laughed, a genuine amused sound. Looks like Gordon's paying attention now. Interesting. He looked at me, something unreadable in his expression. The question is, Alex, do you care what he thinks anymore? I looked at the message, then at Ryker standing beside me, and realized that for the first time since yesterday I felt like I could breathe properly. No, I said, and meant it. I really don't. Ryker's next message came the following afternoon while I was pretending to study in my dorm room. Dinner tomorrow night. Somewhere special. Will you trust me? I stared at my phone, my stomach doing complicated flips. Coffee was one thing, casual, safe, public. Dinner felt different, more intentional, more like a date, though I wasn't sure if that's what he meant. I typed back, define special. His response made me smile despite my nerves. The kind of place where you'll need to wear something nicer than what you wore to coffee, though you looked great. For the record, I spent the next 24 hours in a state of contained panic. I definitely didn't own anything appropriate for whatever kind of restaurant a billionaire considered special. My roommate, Marcus, noticed me tearing through my closet and raised an eyebrow. Hot date? He asked. I don't know what it is, I admitted, but I need help. Marcus, bless him, didn't ask questions. He dragged me to a thrift store he knew and helped me find a blazer that actually fit and didn't look completely outdated. It wasn't designer, but it was decent. Whoever this is, they're lucky, Marcus said as we left. You deserve something good, Alex. The restaurant Ryker had chosen was called Aurelius, and when I looked it up online I nearly canceled. Michelin star, reservation wait list measured in months. The kind of place that appeared in movies about rich people. I arrived feeling like an imposter in my thrift store blazer, certain someone would realize I didn't belong and escort me out. But when I gave my name at the host stand, the woman's expression shifted to warm professionalism. Mr. Montgomery is expecting you. Please follow me. She led me through the main dining room, all soft lighting and quiet conversation, to a private alcove, where Ryker sat waiting. He stood as I approached, and I was struck again by how different he seemed from anyone I'd ever known. Not just the wealth, but the way he carried himself, the confidence that came from knowing exactly who he was. You look nervous, he observed as I sat down. I am, I said honestly. This place is a lot. Would you prefer somewhere else? We can leave right now. The sincerity in his offer surprised me. No, I said quickly. I want to stay. I just feel like I don't quite fit here. Ryker leaned forward, his eyes locked on mine. You fit anywhere you choose to be, Alex. Don't let your surroundings convince you otherwise. Besides, he added with a slight smile, I specifically chose somewhere private because I wanted to actually talk to you without interruptions. The food's incredible, but that's secondary. A waiter appeared with menus and wine recommendations. I barely glanced at mine. Everything was in French with no prices listed, which I'd heard meant it was astronomically expensive. Ryker must have noticed my discomfort because he said, the duck is excellent, and the sea bass is phenomenal. Trust me? I nodded, grateful not to have to navigate the menu myself. He ordered for both of us, speaking French to the waiter with perfect fluency, and I added that to the growing list of things that made him impossibly impressive. So tell me, Ryker said once we were alone again, how has college been since our coffee? Has Gordon backed off? I hesitated, then decided to be truthful. He's been watching me, not saying anything directly, but I can feel him keeping track of who I talk to, where I go. It's unsettling. He's threatened, Ryker said matter-of-factly. Gordon's used to controlling the narrative. You talking to me disrupts that control. He doesn't like it. Is that why you're doing this? I asked. The question coming out more confrontational than I intended. To get under his skin. Ryker set down the water glass he'd been holding and gave me his full attention. Is that what you think? I don't know what to think. I admitted. Yesterday you said you saw something in me. Today you're taking me to dinner at a place like this. Meanwhile, your cousin is freaking out. It feels complicated. It is complicated, Ryker acknowledged. I won't lie to you, Alex. When I first saw what Gordon did, part of me wanted to make him pay for it. He's been a stain on our family name for years, and I'm tired of cleaning up his messes. But then I actually talked to you. He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. And I realized you weren't just some pawn I could use to teach him a lesson. You're interesting. You're talented. You have depth that most people spend their whole lives trying to fake. That's rare. The food arrived and it was indeed incredible. But I could barely taste it. My mind was spinning with everything he'd said. What do you want from me? I asked quietly. Ryker set down his fork and looked at me with an intensity that made my heart race. I want to know you better. I want to spend time with someone who doesn't want anything from me, except honest conversation. Do you have any idea how rare that is in my world? Everyone wants something. A business deal, an introduction, money. You just want to understand what's happening. That's refreshing. I do want something though, I said before I could stop myself. What's that? I want to stop feeling like yesterday broke me permanently. I want to feel like myself again. Ryker's expression softened. Then let me help with that, not because you need rescuing, but because sometimes having someone in your corner makes the healing easier. No expectations, no pressure, just possibility. The word hung between us, heavy with meaning, possibility. I thought about Gordon, about the letters, about how small he'd made me feel. Then I looked at Ryker, who was offering something entirely different. Not romance necessarily, but respect, recognition, the acknowledgement that I was worth more than Gordon's cruelty had suggested. Okay, I said, making a decision that felt both terrifying and right. Let's explore possibility. Ryker smiled, and it transformed his face from intimidating to genuinely warm. Good. Because I have plans for the weekend, and I think you'll enjoy them. Plans? I asked warily. Nothing scary, he promised. Just a chance to see how the other half lives. My treat. Consider it research for those novels you mentioned. We finished dinner talking about everything and nothing. Books we loved, places we wanted to travel, the ridiculous politics of both college and corporate life. By the time dessert arrived, I'd almost forgotten to be nervous. Almost, because underneath the easy conversation, there was something else building. An awareness. Every time Ryker's hand moved near mine on the table, I felt it. Every time his eyes held mine a second too long, I noticed. As he drove me back to campus in his sleek black car, because of course he drove something expensive and immaculate, I worked up the courage to ask what I'd been wondering all night. Ryker, is this? I struggled to find the right words. Are you interested in me, like romantically? He pulled up to my dorm and turned to face me fully. His expression serious. Yes, he said simply. I am. But I also understand if that's too much too fast. You're healing, figuring things out. I don't want to push. My breath caught. He just laid it out there. Completely honest. No games. I don't know if I'm ready. I admitted. I understand, Ryker said. Take whatever time you need. I'm not going anywhere. I opened the car door, then paused. On impulse, I leaned back and kissed his cheek quickly before I could overthink it. Thank you for tonight, I said. For all of it. Before he could respond, I hurried into the building, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I made it to my room, closed the door and leaned against it, touching my lips where they'd brushed his skin. My phone buzzed. Ryker's message read, "Sweet dreams, Alex. Same time next week?" I smiled, typing back a single word, yes. For the first time since Gordon had grabbed my notebook, I fell asleep actually looking forward to tomorrow. Gordon was standing outside my apartment the next morning. I opened the door to find him there, looking completely disheveled, messy hair, dark circles under his eyes, hands shoved deep in his pockets, like he'd been standing there for hours. "Alex, we need to talk," he said, and there was something in his voice I'd never heard before. Desperation. Raw, unfiltered desperation that caught me off guard. I crossed my arms defensively. Now? You want to talk now? After you humiliated me in front of everyone. Suddenly you have something to say? He flinched visibly, like my words had physically struck him. I know I messed up. I know I did something unforgivable. Your letters, when I actually read them properly, when I let myself feel what you wrote, it terrified me. Those feelings were real, Alex. Too real. And I panicked. My anger flared hot and immediate. So your solution to being scared was to turn my emotions into a joke? You destroyed me in front of our entire social circle because you had a panic attack about having real feelings? Alex, please. He stepped closer and I instinctively moved back. I'm genuinely sorry. I mean that with everything in me. I didn't want to hurt you. I was just being stupid and immature and I couldn't handle the intensity of what you were offering. I laughed, but it came out bitter and harsh. Immature doesn't begin to cover it, Gordon. You shattered my trust. You made me feel like I was nothing, like my feelings were something to be ashamed of. Do you understand what that does to a person? But you are something, he said quickly, urgently. You're everything I've been too blind and stupid to appreciate. After you walked away, after you stopped looking at me, I finally understood what I'd lost. I miss you. I miss the way you actually listened when I talked. I miss how much you cared. I ruined everything. But please give me one more chance to make this right. This was the moment I'd fantasized about for so long. Gordon apologizing, wanting me back, realizing his mistake. But standing here now, with Ryker's respect and genuine interest fresh in my mind, these words felt hollow. Empty promises from someone who only valued me after I was gone. It's too late, Gordon, I said, keeping my voice steady despite the emotions churning inside me. You had your chance, and you threw it away the second you decided my feelings were entertainment for your friends. This is because of Ryker, isn't it? His tone shifted abruptly, becoming sharp and accusatory. He's using you, Alex. That's what he does. He finds vulnerable people, pulls them in with his money and power, and then discards them when he gets bored. You're just another game to him. My jaw tightened. And what exactly were you doing? You already threw me away, Gordon. At least Ryker treats me with basic human dignity and respect. Gordon's face flushed red with anger or embarrassment. I couldn't tell which. Respect? Are you serious right now? Wake up, Alex. He's not actually interested in you as a person. This whole thing is designed to make me jealous. You're a pawn in whatever twisted game he's playing with our family dynamics. I moved to close the door, but Gordon's hand shot out, blocking it. His eyes were pleading now, desperate. I love you, Alex. Those words. The exact words I'd written in my letters. The words I'd dreamed of hearing from his lips. But now, spoken in this moment, they felt manipulative. Calculated. A last-ditch effort to control a situation that was slipping away from him. If you really loved me, you never would have hurt me in the first place, I said quietly and pushed the door closed. Inside, my hands were shaking. Gordon's accusations echoed in my mind, planting seeds of doubt I didn't want to acknowledge. Was Ryker really using me? Had everything been orchestrated just to hurt Gordon? The uncertainty made my stomach twist with anxiety. My phone buzzed. Ryker's message read, I'm outside. Can we talk? I looked out the window and saw his car parked down the street, sleek and black and impossibly out of place in my neighborhood. I grabbed my jacket and went downstairs, sliding into the passenger seat beside him. Gordon was here, I said immediately. Ryker nodded slowly. I know. I saw him leave. Is what he said true? Are you using me to get back at him somehow? The question came out more confrontational than I intended, but I needed to know. Ryker's expression became serious, contemplative. He didn't answer right away, which somehow made me trust him more than an immediate denial would have. I'm not going to lie to you, Alex. When this started, yes, part of my motivation was to show Gordon he couldn't treat people like garbage without consequences. I thought taking an interest in you would bother him, and it did. But then something unexpected happened. He paused, meeting my eyes directly. You stopped being about him. You became about you. Your intelligence, your creativity, the way you see the world, that's what interests me now. You're not a game piece anymore, Alex. You're real, and that matters more than any family drama. I wanted to believe him. Part of me desperately needed to believe him. But I was also tired of being hurt. I need time to think about all of this, I said finally. Ryker nodded respectfully. Take whatever time you need. I'll be here when you're ready. That night, my phone exploded with notifications. Gordon's compromising photos had leaked online. Intimate, embarrassing pictures that destroyed his carefully constructed image in minutes. The entire campus was talking about it, and everyone had the same theory about who was responsible. Ryker Montgomery had struck back, and he'd struck hard. Campus became a war zone overnight. Gordon's photos were everywhere. Plastered across social media, shared in group chats, dissected on gossip websites. His reputation, which he'd built so carefully over years, crumbled in hours. And everyone pointed fingers at the same person, Ryker Montgomery. I hid in the library, but I couldn't escape the conversations happening around me. Ryker orchestrated this whole thing to destroy Gordon. He's absolutely ruthless. Poor Gordon, he didn't deserve this. Poor Gordon. I gripped my phone tighter, feeling sick. Something about this entire situation felt wrong. I called Ryker directly, not bothering with a text. Did you do this? I asked the moment he answered. My voice sharp. Silence stretched between us for several painful seconds. Alex, yes or no, Ryker? Did you leak those photos? I was almost yelling now, drawing stares from other library occupants. No, he said firmly, his voice steady and certain. I had nothing to do with this. Whatever mistakes Gordon made are his own. They're surfacing now because someone else decided to expose them, not because I orchestrated anything. I wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at me. Everyone's blaming you. Of course they are, Ryker said, and I could hear frustration bleeding into his tone. I'm the easy target. I'm powerful, I'm connected, I'm mysterious. People assume I'm the villain because that fits their narrative. But Alex, I swear to you, I didn't do this. Then my phone buzzed with another call. Gordon, I have to go, I told Ryker abruptly. Alex, please meet me, Gordon said when I answered, his voice broken and desperate. I need to tell you the truth about everything. Against my better judgment, curiosity won. We met at a small coffee shop off campus, somewhere Gordon wouldn't normally be caught dead in. He looked terrible, unwashed hair, wrinkled clothes, the confident shine completely gone from his eyes. Those photos, he started, not meeting my gaze. I leaked them myself. My brain went completely blank. What? I wanted your sympathy back, he continued, his voice cracking with emotion. I thought if I made myself look like a victim, you'd feel bad for me and come back. And everyone would blame Ryker, which would drive a wedge between you two. I thought I could accomplish two goals at once. I felt physically ill. You're telling me you deliberately ruined your own reputation, exposed your most private moments, just to manipulate me into forgiving you? Gordon finally looked up and his eyes were red-rimmed. I was desperate, Alex. I couldn't stand the thought of losing you forever. I know it sounds insane, but you thought wrong. I cut him off coldly. This isn't desperation, Gordon. This is manipulation on a level I didn't think you were capable of. You already lost me when you turned my letters into a joke. But this proves you never really knew me at all. If you did, you'd understand that I could never respect someone who plays these kinds of sick games. I stood to leave, but Gordon grabbed my wrist. Please, I love you. I pulled my arm away like his touch burned. No, you don't. You love the idea of winning. You love being in control. You've never actually loved me, Gordon. You just hate that I found something better. Outside, the fresh air hit my lungs and I could finally breathe properly again. My phone lit up with a message from Ryker. I know the truth now. Gordon confessed everything to the dean. You were right to question things, but you were questioning the wrong person. Relief flooded through me so intensely my knees felt weak. Ryker had been telling the truth. He hadn't manipulated me or used me. He'd been genuine from the start, and I doubted him because of Gordon's poisonous words. I texted back immediately. Can we meet? That night, I found myself in Ryker's penthouse. City lights twinkling through floor-to-ceiling windows. The space was beautiful but somehow still felt warm. Lived in despite its obvious luxury. I'm sorry, I said the moment we were alone. I doubted you when I should have trusted you. Ryker touched my cheek gently, his thumb brushing away a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. You had every right to doubt. Trust isn't given freely. It's earned through consistent actions over time. He pulled me into his arms, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt completely safe, protected, valued for exactly who I was. Alex, he whispered against my hair, I promise you I will never deliberately hurt you. Not for revenge. Not for games. Not for anything. In that moment, wrapped in his embrace with the city spread out below us, I chose to believe him, because Ryker had proven himself through actions, not just pretty words. The next day, Gordon posted a public apology video. He admitted everything, the manipulation, the self-sabotage, the lies. He cleared Ryker's name completely and announced he was leaving college to deal with personal issues. Some people felt sorry for him. Most just felt vindicated in their initial assessment of his character. As for me, my chapter with Gordon closed permanently that day, and I didn't look back. 3 weeks later, everything had settled into a new normal. Gordon had withdrawn from college, citing family issues and personal growth needs. Some students pitied him, but most simply moved on to the next piece of campus drama. I didn't forgive him, forgiveness felt too generous for what he'd done. But I did release the anger I'd been carrying. Holding on to it would only poison my own future. Ryker remained constant through it all, steady and reliable in ways I hadn't experienced before. We weren't officially together in the traditional sense. Labels still felt premature, too much pressure after everything I'd been through. But what we had was undeniably real. He took me on spontaneous adventures, introduced me to his world of business meetings and gallery openings, and most importantly, he listened. Really listened, in a way that made me feel heard. One evening, we sat on his penthouse terrace under a blanket of stars. The city hummed with life below us. But up here it felt like we existed in our own private universe. Alex, Ryker said, lacing his fingers through mine, you've taught me something important. What's that? I asked, genuinely curious. That money and influence mean nothing without authentic connection. Real relationships are incredibly rare in my world. Everyone wants something from me. A business opportunity, social access, financial backing. But you just wanted to be seen and appreciated for who you are. That's priceless. My heart expanded in my chest. This man who projected such power and control to the outside world was showing me his softer side, his vulnerable underbelly that he kept hidden from everyone else. You've taught me something too, I replied. That I deserve genuine love and respect. That I shouldn't settle for people who don't value me, no matter how much I want them to. You showed me what it feels like to be prioritized. Ryker smiled. That rare genuine smile that transformed his entire face, and kissed me. It was slow and deep, like he wanted to memorize every detail of the moment. When we finally pulled apart, he pressed his forehead against mine. Stay with me, he whispered. Not because of what I can provide materially, but because we make each other better people. Because I genuinely need you in my life. Tears pricked my eyes, but these were happy tears. Healing tears. I'm not going anywhere. I promise. The next morning, I did something symbolic and necessary. I gathered all the old letters I'd written to Gordon, the ones that had caused so much pain, and burned them in Ryker's fireplace. Watching them turn to ash felt cathartic, like physically releasing the past and all its hurt. Ryker handed me a set of keys. Move in with me, he said. Whenever you're ready. No pressure, no expectations. Just know that my space is your space now. I held the keys, feeling their weight, not just physical but emotional. This represented commitment, trust, a future built on honesty rather than manipulation. I'll think about it, I said, though we both knew my answer would eventually be yes. Back at college, people noticed the change. Whispers followed me through hallways. Alex is dating Ryker Montgomery? How did he manage that? Lucky guy. I ignored the commentary because other people's opinions no longer defined my worth. Only one thing mattered. I was happy, genuinely deeply happy for the first time in months. I started writing again, but this time, the poems weren't for anyone else. They were for me. Reflections on my journey, my growth, my transformation from someone who let others dictate his value to someone who recognized his own worth. On impulse, I published them anonymously online, not expecting anything. They went viral within days. When Ryker discovered they were mine, he pulled me into a tight embrace. "I'm proud of you," he said simply. Those words, so straightforward, so genuine, meant more than any grand romantic gesture could have. Our final scene played out weeks later in Ryker's car on a spontaneous road trip. No destination, no schedule, just two people driving into an unknown future together. His hand held mine across the center console. Music played softly through the speakers, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. "Alex," Ryker said, glancing at me with warmth in his eyes. "Thank you for taking a chance on me." "Thank you for proving you deserved that chance," I replied, squeezing his hand. As sunset painted the horizon in brilliant oranges and purples, we both understood something fundamental. This wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. The start of a healthier love story, built on mutual respect and genuine connection rather than manipulation and games. Gordon had taught me what I didn't want. Ryker showed me what I deserved. And I'd learned the most important lesson of all, that my worth wasn't determined by who wanted me, but by how I valued myself. The road stretched endlessly ahead of us, full of possibility and promise. And for the first time since Gordon had grabbed my notebook in that cafeteria, I wasn't afraid of what came next. I was ready for it.